Hi, crafty friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Irene here with Artemis Mate, and I'm very excited because it's new release day for Trinity Stamps. How exciting, right? We love new releases. So for my particular project today, I'm focusing on a few of the new release products. That's these right here, the Nurse Appreciation Stamp and Die and the Indispensables stamp set. Now the whole release is jam-packed. So you need sympathy, you need get well, you need a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink, pun. Trinity's got you covered. Okay, so we're going to jump right into our card video here because there's a lot to get through. So we've got a US A2 card base here, and we are using the die set from the Nurse Appreciation Stamp and Die to line up where we want our cutout to be because we're going to make a window card. So I used this stamp to kind of figure out where exactly I want to place my die, and then I ran it through my die cutting machine. Now I'm pulling out my Misty because we're going to do some stamping. The reason I'm doing a window card is because I'm going to stamp the actual sentiment from the Nurse Appreciation set into the inside of my card. Now I went ahead and burnished my fold because of this part of the card. I actually am lining up my stamp, and if you look, you can see where the die cut has little points and little areas that are sticking out. I'm using those to help me determine how best to align my stamp. And you're going to be really impressed with how well this landed because, well, at least I can say I was very impressed with how well that worked. So hopefully that little trick works for you as well. All right, so we're going to do some very simple watercoloring here. I'm using some Simon Hurley inks, and first I'm just putting a little layer of water on my cardstock. And this is not watercolor cardstock. This is the Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in 110-pound weight. And I'm just putting a tiny bit of water, so it's not going to saturate it too much or anything like that. It holds up really well against the water. So first I'm doing all of my bigger words, the nurses, precious, and few, and I'm doing those in 3 different colors. So the first one is the pink color, Rosy Cheeks. My banner is the purple Sidewalk Chalk, and then the and few is in a mint shade. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. It's a minty shade. So what I did is one light wash of the color first, and then I'm going to go in with a second wash that goes up about 2/3 of the way of the letters. And then I will do a third wash that's going to go only a third of the way up. So what ends up happening is a really pretty ombre. Very simple, very pretty, and it works. It works really well. So once you have your color down, you can just kind of intensify it as you wish. And then I just use an extra little water brush to go over it and make sure that it blends nicely. After that, I took a white gel pen and I just add a little bit of character to each of the letters. I did some lines, some dots here and there. And then for the word precious, if you notice, I actually did a rotation of the colors that I used. So the P-R-E, each one of those is a different color from the colors that I used earlier. And then my gel pen on that, I just did little dots all over the precious to kind of give it its own little pattern. So that is pretty much all I did on the inside of the card at that point. Then I took those same Simon Hurley colors, the Rosy Cheeks, the Sidewalk Chalk, and Minty Fresh, there it is, now I remember, and I am doing some simple ink blending. Now, any excuse to use my Trinity brushes, I will take it because I love them so much. I need to make sure I grab another pink little brush with clip because I can't seem to find it. I don't know how that happened. Anyhow, so I am doing my ink blending here, and ordinarily I would say you need layers and patience for your ink blending because that is really quite true. But in this particular case, we are making our own pattern paper, so this is going to be a little less important than it would be if your ink blending was going to be a major focal point in your image. But in this case, it's going to fade into the background. Now here I'm showing you again the Indispensable stamp set because I'm going to use the tiniest of the stamps in this set to create my pattern for my pattern paper. Now here I'm just kind of showing you, I had these put together on my stamp block, but part of the trick of doing your pattern paper that I find particularly helpful, is to align your stamps in a way that best fits the ink that you're going to be using. So I like to use the Lisa Horton Cloud 9 Solid Black Detail ink. And so if you notice now, I've kind of rearranged my stamps in a way that I can just stamp straight onto my block and then onto my paper without having to kind of shift my block back and forth to make sure that everything gets nice and inked up. That's just something that helps me out. Now, I would be remiss if I did not give major kudos and props to our very own Carrie Rhodes at Trinity Stamps, who is the paper creating pattern extraordinaire. She is fabulous at this technique, and she is the one I learned this from. So thank you very much, Carrie. Make sure you pop over to her channel and check out her video for today's hop as well. All right, so to get back to the pattern paper, we are going to keep using our stamps, and what I'm doing is basically turning my little block here from side to side and trying to give it as organic and random a feel as possible. It could look good too if you kept it in the same repetitive pattern. There's plenty of pattern paper that does have that option, but I like it when it kind of looks just haphazard and unintentional, I suppose. So you see me kind of keep shifting my block around to see how I can make that work. And the reason they're clustered like that is because I want to make sure that they get nice and close. Okay, so I just went ahead and finished that part of it off camera, and now I'm showing you how I finish this up. I grab a couple of the little small stamps and I put them in each corner of my stamp block. I do that partially for stability, so that when I'm stamping down, it still feels like an even pressure because I've got a stamp on both ends, but also because I want to be able to flip my block around, and I'm filling in those tiny little areas that I felt maybe looked a little too bare, so I wanted to make sure that they're nice and covered. And then my favorite part of finishing this up is to use some kind of spatter liquid or a little acrylic paint or something like that to give it a nice spatter. So I'm using the Brutus Monroe Aqua Pigment in the shade Tin Man, which is a really pretty metallic silver. So I have a spatter box there, spatter, however you want to call it, and this was the end result. I spattered all over the place and off we went. So now this is going to be our card front. And since I mentioned we're doing a window card, we need to cut a window through our card front in order to be able to see the inside of the card. This is my little trick for being able to do that. I've already cut that front window, so now I can place my pattern paper that I created inside of it and use that die to cut it out. It basically locks into place. Now, you're going to see panic set in right here. I did not realize, I just didn't even occur to me that my ink might still be a little bit wet, and then when I run it through my die cutting machine, I'm pushing that black in. But that was going to be a problem for later, Irene. Okay, so what you also saw me just do is run it through an embossing folder that I had in my stash just to add a little bit of texture. You could do that with a stencil. You could do all kinds of things. I just really wanted to add a little bit of dots. So now I'm adding some glue to that to the card base and to the card front. And you notice I'm kind of being careful to make sure I get all around the edges of that window because I want to make sure that it's nice and secured, and it's got some really small areas. So I definitely want to make sure that those stay nice and put together. Now I had that little brown cardstock in there to try to prevent more of the ink moving around my card. All right, this is how I solve that problem. So I made an inner liner and I have an acetate layer as well, and those are the measurements for it. So I cut out that inner liner using the same technique that I just did for the card front. And you see I'm going to actually cover up the majority of my little blip right here. The way I'm going to try to fix what goes around that inner liner is with a Tombow sand eraser. It works really well to get rid of some ink that might be where you don't exactly want it to go. However, folks, you know what? Ink's going to get where it wants to go. I swear it's got a mind of its own. And whenever I get inky things where they didn't mean to go, I just call that an authenticity mark. It's handmade, right? That's what's going on here. Okay, so now a little trick too that I like to use, since I'm doing tape runner, I like to put my my cardstock on another scrap piece of paper so that I can run my liner right up to the edges and make sure that it's nice and secured. Now I'm going to put my acetate layer on what looks like the front of this piece, and that's because I'm going to flip that over and then it's going to actually be the back side of the front of my card. So that front panel is going to have a second inner liner layer. And you're going to see here how I'm lining those up together. And I'm just following the window and making sure that it all matches up really nicely. And I'm very happy. Look at that. It worked. So we now have a secured acetate layer, and all of that messy dye or messy ink that I had on inside is gone. So trust me, keep going. If you think you've made a mistake, just stick with it. You will find a way around it. All right, so now we are going to stamp one more thing on the inside of our card, and that is a little interior sentiment. And it's the other sentiment from the Nurse Appreciation set. And I really, really love this set because I think it's so important to say thank you to the people who take such good care of us. There are incredible nurses all over the world, and I am so sure that they would appreciate this sweet little sentiment just to let them know that we're grateful for their efforts. But this doesn't necessarily have to be for somebody who is a nurse by trade. It could just be somebody who nursed you back to health when you were sick. Or maybe the school nurse helped your little one when they had a boo-boo. That's always a good thing too. So no matter how you choose to use this stamp set, I know that the recipient is absolutely going to appreciate it. It's very sweet. So the full set says, "Nurses like you are precious and few. A big thank you for all that you do." So here we are, folks. Here is our finished card project. I hope you've liked it. I hope you've had some fun today. Now, for the really fun stuff, make sure that you grab the link to the form in the description below for your chance at winning a $25 shopping spree to Trinity Stamps. Aren't they generous? I'm so grateful for this company. They're amazing. And look at the products they do. I'm so in awe. So I love this. I hope you love it too. Like I said, the sympathy set is covered. The get well soon set is covered. There are emojis, people. There are emojis. They're so cute. You've got to check it out. I know you're going to love it as much as I do. So thank you again so very much. Make sure you grab the link and then hop on to the next video. I know you're going to be so inspired. So thank you again so very much. Have a great day, and I hope you grab some paper and craft something that really makes you smile. Take care, friends. Thanks. Bye.